Sorry, judges, we are just waiting for the other participant to join and then we'll start with the session.
So you have muted yourself. We are unable to hear you.
So that's fine.
You just keep saying something. So you've muted yourself.
Good afternoon, judges. I'm so sorry. There was some network issue. I cannot turn on my camera. I'm trying to resolve it as soon as possible.
TC219, we request you to change your name.
Yes.
Excuse me, just for clarification purposes, although we have renamed ourselves as TC214 Council, however, we both are present here and we may be taken as a team. Thank you.
Oh, is the OC here? I'm sorry, I'm unable to turn on my camera. Is it okay if I join from my phone?
TC219, we request you to change your device.
Yes, if you can spare me 2 minutes. I'm so sorry.
All right, please don't be late beyond 2 minutes. We are already running late.
Or I'm so sorry.
No problem, please.
While we're waiting, can the other students just introduce themselves? Who's representing whom and the names, please?
Ma'am, I am team code 220. I'm the mediator.
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon. I am team code 232. I'll be co-mediating the session.
Okay, welcome.
Before we start the session, I would like to pay our dear condolence to the departed soul of Mr. Cyrus Mufru, whom I would be imitating in this session. And I'll be representing Mr. Cyrus Mayweather in this session, and I would like to be addressed as Mr. Serious.
Okay.
Hi, I am the counsel.
Sorry. Hello, everyone. My name is Zia Sharma, and I shall be representing myself as the in-house counsel for Mayweather Consultancy Group. I would like to be addressed by my first name, Zia. Thank you.
Hi, I am the counsel for DSPL. That is, I'll be representing DSPL as a counsel, and my name is Alexander Hamilton. You can refer to me by my shortened abbreviation of the first name, Alex, if it's fine. And my client would be joining.
I think by the time TC219's client joins, we can begin with the session. And she'll join gradually. So good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to HPNLU Shimla. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the most awaited round of the second national mediation competition of HPNLU Shimla, which is the finale. In order to clarify, the requesting party for this round is TC214 and the responding party is TC219. The mediators for the round are TC232 and TC220. Taking a moment prior to the beginning of the competition, I, Prachi Thakur, the co-convener of the ADR Society, would like to extend my heartiest gratitude to the esteemed panel for taking out their precious time and gracing us with their presence in this round. Mr. Amit Sandhuja is an advocate at High Court of Delhi, an accredited mediator at ICADR. Mr. Jaydeep Mehta is a designated partner at Lex Street Advisors LLP, Advocates and Solicitors, and an independent director at Lemery. Ms. Anupam Aluwalia is a corporate attorney, international mediator, negotiator, and a mediation trainer. Ms. Radhika Arora, independent counsel, arbitrator, trained mediator, former partner, dispute resolution, Cyril Amarchand and Mangaldas. Mr. Patrick is ADR attorney, mediator, arbitrator, coach, ODR specialist, ambassador, arbitrator intelligence, and resident representative, California, ADR ODR International Limited. Welcome, everyone. Advancing further, I shall read out the specific rules pertaining to this competition. Please pay attention. The overall time for the mediation session is 90 minutes, which continues to run during the caucus. The mediators of the round will have to ensure that the round is conducted within the prescribed limit. The maximum time for the caucus is 7 minutes. I repeat, 7 minutes it is. And the participants should not exceed it in any case. The heads up for the time will be given in the chat box at times. After the completion of 90 minutes, the participants will be provided with an extra 2 minutes just to wrap up their session. And in addition to this, no spare time shall be allotted in any case. Participants are to conduct themselves with the required etiquette during the entire span of the competition. In case of a technical glitch, the competition clock will be paused after the appeal. All the teams are requested to abide by these rules. So without any further ado, let's commence this grand finale.
Thank you, host, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone.
I'm sorry, 1 second. I think one of your judges is still not here. Mr. Joydeep actually left the... I saw the message coming up. I don't know if he has joined again.
Sir is here.
Okay, because the message came up saying that he had left the session, so I just...
He has joined back in the session.
Okay. And are everybody here, like all the team members and the council? Because one person was having an issue with her device, right?
Yes, ma'am. I am actually not able to turn on my camera. I'm trying to join from a different device, but I'll have to change my name there also.
Okay, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, ma'am. Greetings, everyone. I am Mr. William Brown. I'm chairman and head of Damascus Group, and my preferred pronouns are he and him. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much.
With the permission of the chair, could the mediators please begin?
Yeah, from
Thank
my
you.
side, you can ask everybody else.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you to your mediation session. I, Puneet Dhanova, along with Jayant from the ICC International Center for ADR, will be the mediators for this session. You can address us by our first names. We have been certified mediators for over 10 years. We appreciate everyone's presence here and thank you for agreeing to mediation process
as it is one of the best ways to resolve a dispute with success rate as high as 85%. We hope by the end of this session, you will reach an amicable solution and have a fruitful session. We understand the stakes that are involved in this particular case, and we really hope that by the end of the session, you all reach an amicable solution. Before moving forward, I request the parties to state their positions again for the clarity of the judges and everyone else and how they'd like to be addressed.
I am Mr. Sirius Mayweather, CEO of Mayweather Consulting Group, and this is my counsel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zia Sharma, and I'm the in-house counsel for Mayweather Consulting Group. And I have full authority to represent my client, and I would like to be addressed as Zia, my first name. Thank you.
Hi, very good afternoon to everyone present here. I am the General Counsel for the DSPL Group, and my name is Alexander Hamilton. You can refer to me by the abbreviation of my first name, which is Alex. My pronouns are he and him, and my role here is an advisor to Mr. William Brown, who is representing the company in an official capacity and has the sole responsibility to make any decision on behalf of the company. He'll be joining with us quite soon, and may I request the mediators if they may pause the time as he's joining, because I believe that's in one of the rules of the mediations.
Yes, sure. Mr. Alex, do you wish for us to stop the time right now, or do you want to wait till the interruptions?
I think he has joined. If you may introduce.
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. For anyone who missed it earlier, I am Mr. William Brown. I am the chairman head of Damascus Group, and my preferred pronouns are he and him. I have full authority to make any decisions along with my counsel's advice, definitely. Thank you.
Thanks to all the parties for their introduction. Now, to brief the parties about what mediation is and how the whole process is going to be, we'll be providing you a brief about the same. So, Jayant and I would like to define the process of mediation as a collaborative one, wherein the parties come together in a safe environment to find possible solutions to the problems that have arisen between them. And they do so by putting forward their needs with the assistance from neutral third parties, which would be us, the mediators. The mediators in this session are going to act like a GPS to make the parties arrive at their destination wherein their interests are fulfilled and the concerns are resolved. Are we following everything so far? Wonderful. So mediation rests on 4 pillars. The first one being party autonomy and self-determination. The parties in this session have the authority to arrive at a decision and agreement with the other party. Mediation is a party-centric process wherein the parties have full authority to decide and come to a conclusion. That is why in the beginning of the session, I address the session to be your mediation session. The mediators do not have the authority to impose anything on the parties. They are just here as facilitators to ensure smooth flow of conversation and resolution of dispute in an amicable manner. Is it correct to state that the parties have the full autonomy to make a decision today?
Yes, we have.
Yes, thank you. Moving on to the next pillar, that is confidentiality. The parties must have already signed the confidentiality agreement that was sent by our mediation center. Anything and everything that is discussed in this session today is confidential and will not be testified anywhere. Any notes that are taken by myself and the co-mediator will be discarded at the end of the session to maintain confidentiality. We are also not recording this session, and we are sure that none of you are also doing so. This process is without prejudice, and hence anything that is shared here today cannot be used against you in the court of law. Also, the mediators cannot be called upon to act as witnesses against you in a court of law. Moving on to the next pillar, that is voluntariness. None of the parties were forced to be here in this session today. The parties are here voluntarily with the intention to resolve the disputes amicably. Is it correct to state that the parties are here voluntarily? Yes, great. So the last pillar being neutrality. The co-mediator and I are totally neutral for the session and do not have any preconceived bias towards any of the parties. We are here to facilitate what is best for both the parties. So is it correct to state that none of the parties know the mediators personally? Yes, thank you. So now I'll like to hand over to Jayant, who will be explaining the process of today's session along with some ground rules for the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Puneet. That was a great start to this mediation process. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. A good afternoon to everyone present here, all the parties and my co-mediator. First of all, I'd like to take the time to thank the parties to coming to mediation on a Sunday afternoon. That shows your willingness to set such a positive attitude and solving this in such an amicable manner. And that shows your determination. Instead of going to litigation, going at each other's throats, you know what, let's just solve this in a more friendly manner. And that's one thing I really appreciate. And in mediation, you know what, I'll start with an analogy. Okay, this should break the ice. So you need two hands to clap, right? You can't do it with one hand. So only when two hands come together, you can clap, and that shows cooperation. And I hope today's objective of today's mediation session is more cooperative. Both the parties can cooperate so that you can come to a reasonable settlement and a middle ground sooner. And you know what, I'll break the ice. I'll tell you guys something. I'm wearing a blazer, a shirt, and a tie, but I'm actually matching this outfit with with track pants. Why I'm symbolize that symbolizes comfort. So I want this whole process to be that comfortable. Just parties sitting here talking like friends and just solving out putting out the reservations and solving that towards the end. So that is the whole reason that's the symbolism I wanted to point out over there. And finally, we as mediators are in no capacity here as adjudicators. We are not here to judge anyone. So anything you say will not be viewed in a prejudicial manner. It cannot be used for or against you in any court of law. So I hope that promotes all the parties to put out and divulge more information, because when you do that, it not only aids the mediators, it also aids the parties in coming to a consensus. They don't know information, that's why you're at dispute. The more you put out information, the more they understand your side. So we urge the parties to do that. So yeah, and finally, I'd like to lay down some ground rules. All right. So first of all, only one speak at a time, because we do not want one party to interrupt the other. So whenever you want to speak, just raise your hand, or please wait until one party is finished speaking. You will get a chance to respond. You will not be ignored. I can assure you that, as a mediator, and my co-mediator also will agree with this. And please speak slowly and coherently, because we're all from various cultures and we have different accents. So that might lead us to not understand certain accents sometimes. So if you speak a bit slowly, it's more comprehensible for everyone over here. And for them, it aids the mediators also to interpret your statements better and to convey them better. And finally, the most important and the most basic one is that please show some mutual respect and not use any slang or racial terms over here that would malign any of the parties' feelings, be it personal or professional. And finally, I like to set the structure and run the parties through the procedure. So I'd like the parties to remember and the remember the word sonar, SONAR. So the first one is your opening statement. So that will be taken by all the parties. So everyone will get a chance to present their opening statement. Just over here, I just want the parties, to tell a story, to tell us your concern, to sit here and you just put it out there, tell your story, and that will be considered. And after your opening statement is done, we will be setting the agendas for each of the parties. And here I'd like to point out that once the agenda is set, the parties have discretion to amend or interpret the agenda in their own way, or they can set their own agenda. But it's a mediators who will also be aiding in this and also will be setting the agenda over here. Then comes the negotiation after setting the agenda. After setting the agenda, the floor is open to negotiations. Based on the agenda, we hope all the parties will streamline their discussions based only on the agendas, so that it will lead to a more fruitful and more efficient session of mediation. And finally, towards the end, we might come to an agreement. The parties might come to an agreement, and finally, that will lead to a resolution. So, hence the word sonar. And I'd like to remind the parties that this is a 90-minute mediation session with a caucus that can be availed by both the parties for about 7 minutes. And I'd like to reassure the parties that any information divulged in the private caucuses, is highly confidential unless you give us a green signal to divulge this information to the other party. Unless you give us a green light, it will stay with us and it will not go out to them. I hope this is understood. And just one final thing. I just want all the parties to remember, this is not a process where there's one winner and one loser. Everyone settling on a middle ground, and that's the main objective today. So the floor is open to questions. Any questions by any of the parties? Seeing none, I like to start off with the requesting party's opening statement. Please continue. Thank you.
A warm welcome to everyone present here, and good afternoon to the honorable judges. So, I am Mr. Sirius Mayweather, the owner of Mayweather Consultation Group. We at our company are we had a family relationship with Damascus Group, and they not only extend to one generation, but they have been with previous generation. My father was a very dear friend to Mr. Damascus, who has been who has been acting as a guide to me, who has propelled me and helped me to reach where I am. I'm great. I'm really grateful for the guidance which I have received from him, and also after my father, he will be a fatherly figure to me, would always be readily available to guide me in all my future endeavors. So we, the Damascus Group and MCG, we are not the businessmen, but we are industrialists and nation builders. We are not only looking for profits, but we are in the country to serve the people, as the people of the country are defines how strong the country is, how strong the economy of the country is. These are the main bases on which the country stands, the population of the country, and the services which we provide are, are very much to the line in which we can ensure that. MSG is a non-government company, and it mainly deals with investment advisor, and we act as investment advisor to the people. And we have also many other ventures like into fiber, cement, chemical, etc. We're not as big as DSPL, but we do have plans of future expansion. So in 2011, I was appointed as the chairman of DSPL. This was done. I took the reins of the company when it was struggling after 2008 financial crisis. I sailed the company through this crisis and tried my best to help the company put back on its feet, and it can be profitable again, increase the bottom line of the company. I did all I can in my possible power to do it, be it acquisitions, be it anything. I did it all. Also, the chairman emeritus, Mr. Damascus, Mr. James Damascus, has a dream of giving people of India a very affordable car, which even a lower strata who is only traveling on bike can afford it, so that people of the country have better standard of living. So to fulfill the dream of Mr. James Damascus, I tried everything in my power to make the dream a reality. He dreamt of a car, and I made it into the reality of the people of the country who can enjoy and start using cars when they can only dream of owning it. So, in fulfilling those, I have to take some measures, which I think many of the people who can only look outside, who are looking from outside the company, the shareholders, they do not know what is happening inside the company, what are the financial status of the company is. They can only comment after looking what's happening inside the company. We are selling our limb of a company. We are diluting our equity. So they are commenting on that very reasons, but they really do not know what's happening inside the company, what all the measures the board of directors have to take, so that the vision of the company can be move forward, and we can achieve what we have dreamed of, and what we have to do for the people of the nation. In 2010, Mr. James Damascus saw this dream of a car, and in 2019, we as a company, not me alone, made it a reality. I was appointed as a chairman of DSPL in 2011, and after that, I have been running a company with utmost good faith, and also taking all the major decisions which were necessary for its running. And after few years, when I was at helm of the affairs, I did all I can. But to my displeasure, there were things that happened to me, the company did to me, which really upset me. For one of the major reasons which shook my heart was at the demise of my father. Mr. James Damascus did not show up at his funeral. He was very dear friend to my father. We had family relations, but I was really shocked to see that due to business rivalry, he didn't even show up. And I was only reminded of a quote that when you laugh, everyone laugh with you, but when you cry alone. I was alone in the grief. I was crying. I was grieving the demise of my father, but the person whom I consider a fatherly figure to me did not even show up due to some business rivalry. I was really shocked by this. And the uh, after this, I don't know what were the reasons for the removal, for my removal as a chairman of the company. I was not given any notice. I was just removed from chairmanship, even though I put my sweat and blood into making this company up. I can say I did all I can to make this a great company. I sailed it through 2008 financial crisis. I helped it sustain. But I was just one day I came to my office and I came to know that I was not the chairman anymore. My name was removed from my cabin. And it came to me as a shock that people, the company, and whom I consider my family did not even tell me to my face. I have to know it from the staff members who told me that this has been done to me. I was really shocked by this. Another point which really hurt me was the dream project which our chairman emeritus, Mr. James Damascus, dreamt of. I put into reality, but that project was not a success. It led to losses to our country, to the company, which were really bad. And to curtail those losses, again, there were some measures that I had to take, which were again, as I'm again reiterating that the people outside the company did not know what's happening inside the company. They only know that we are venturing into something else. We are not doing what they wanted, and they will not give us our support. So these were really the things that aggrieved me a lot, and that's why I'm here in this mediation session. I really want the collaboration with Damascus Group to go on, as we are not only business partners, but we have family relationship. I really hold Mr. James Damascus in very high regard. Now, I'd like my counsel to delve with the technicalities of all the decisions and acquisitions and the limbs that were acquired in the company in the great detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sirius. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zia, and I am representing my client, Mr. Sirius Mayweather, although I have been in-house counsel for late Mr. Daniel Mayweather as well. Before beginning, as some mediator said, that we all belong to different cultures and linguistics. So in case any of my point is not clear to anyone, please feel free to let me know of the same, or I may even alter my tone so that it is audible and clear to everyone. Having said that, at the very outset, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to the GPS of today's cars, that is, the mediators. We actually love this analogy, and even the analogy of the comfortable pants given by Sir Mediator. It did bring a smile on our faces. And we also ensure you, mediators, that we shall abide by the ground rules as well. Also, I would like to express our gratitude to Mr. James as well for showing faith in us when we proposed about going for mediation rather than the cumbersome litigation process, which could have only made us more antagonistic of each other and which could also have cost us not only monies, but also, not only monies, but also our time. And time is money. Time is more precious than even money, especially for the ones who have the pressure of doing something for the nation. The entrepreneurs sitting here and the experts over here in the room. Having said that, in addition to what my client has already stated, as a preliminary matter, I would like to clarify that as a counsel, I would be operating primarily in an advisory capacity. Because I think it best to be for the parties, that it is best for them to articulate their own perspectives instead of getting entangled in the legal quagmire and technicalities of the matter. This also means that today I have an additional responsibility to explain the technical jargon and technicalities concerning the assets and liabilities and securities, since this dispute is of technical nature. So, any one of you, if you feel that you are not able to understand any term or nuances of the process, please feel free to let me know, and I shall be very happy to explain these terms. Although I shall try my best to keep it most general and understandable for everyone out here. Also, we should nonetheless bear in mind that this mediation occurs in the shadow of the law. In this case, under the ICC mediation rules of 2014. Now, what my client and I seek to achieve here through this discussion is for both the parties to actually listen to each other in a manner in which we haven't been able to so far. This has also been emphasized by the mediators, of course, but here is an analogy that I use in my mediation sessions to, demonstrate the same. So, parties, let us all imagine that the screens through which we all are interacting, these are not mere screens, but double-sided mirrors. If you remember, when we go to a double-sided mirror, we can see ourselves also and reflect on the other side as well, right? Similarly, here, the parties, we as well as the opposite party, should not only reflect our own concerns, but also should try to reflect and consider the concerns and circumstances of the opposite side of the dispute. Having said that, as highlighted by the mediator, while the proceedings remain confidential, we should all be open and transparent with each other. And our goal today is to try to bridge the gap as much as possible. And this, with regards to the synergies between the Mayweather group and Damascus and Sons, a lot has already been spoken by my client. I would just highlight a few technicalities that MCN is one of the two promoters of the Damascus and Sons group. And secondly, that the two companies also have a shareholding in each other. So here we are devoid of any physical representation, or I could have used the whiteboard. However, please try to understand that DSPL has a shareholding of 22.4% in MCG, whereas MCG holds a stake of 30.25% in DSPL. Having said this, I think these are the germane grounds for us to lay down the agendas or the issues from our side that we wish to have an amicable solution to. That is, firstly, regarding the restructuring of equity structure of our stake and DSPL's stake in each other due to the current events that have happened. Also taking into account the restructuring of the subsidiary companies of both the groups. And again, there shall be certain issues of grievance that have been mentioned by my client regarding his removal from office without prior notice, and regarding a breach of an agreement that was done, regarding which we would also want a joint statement, but that is for a later part. So here I conclude my opening remark, and I once again thank you all here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sirius and Ms. Zia. Mr. Sirius, I'd like to offer my condolences for the demise of your father, Mr. Daniel. Moving further with the what has been stated by the parties here, that MCG is one of the promoters of the Damascus and Sons Private Limited, and they mainly deal with investment advisors. Further, there was some lag that existed in the year 2008. Some economic circumstances were created due to which Mr. Sirius had themselves tried their level best to make the company stand on its feet back again. But due to some differences that occurred, they were removed as the chairman of the company. But they do wish for the collaboration to go on. And as they have stated, we should all look past the events that have existed and focus on the future prospects between both the companies and on a fruitful outcome of the session. So in furtherance of the same, they have proposed three agendas on the table today. The first one being restructuring of the equity structures of both the companies and their subsidiary companies. Second one being the removal of Mr. Sirius from office of chairman. And the third one being the breach of contract. So in case the agendas of both the parties align, these will be finalized at the agendas, but that shall only be done after the responding party has done with their opening remarks. So over to the responding party, please.
May I, before interject a little bit, Madam Mediator, it would be
Yes.
beneficial for both the parties if the agenda suggested by Zia would be put on the screen, and then we can give our suggestions after our opening statements are over.
Sure. I'll be typing it in the chat box if that's okay with the parties.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
If I may begin with my opening statement. Okay. Greetings again, everyone. I am William Brown, and I am the chairman of the Damascus and Sons Private Limited. First of all, I would like to begin by thanking the mediators, Jayant and Puneet, for setting up the room so well and so wonderfully that despite it being my first mediation session or first session in a setting like this, I am really pleased and I'm at ease and comfortable, and I believe I can be. I'm positive in the sense that I'll be as open and upfront about the facts of the case and about my situation as possible, and I believe the opposing party has the same views. Also, I would like to thank Zia and Sirius for calling out and choosing this method of resolving our disputes, which shows that they want to resolve the disputes amicably, and the other benefits of the mediation, which has already been described very well by the mediators. Now, moving further, first of all, at the very outset, I would like to explicitly state that I really apologize, and I'm very sorry for the loss that Sirius has faced because of the demise of his father, Daniel. And I would also like to bring to his notice that James has personally informed me that because of his ill health, he wasn't able to, attend his funeral. But there was no intention of displaying or portraying the enhancement of the rivalry or any kind of negative emotions that might have been conveyed intentionally or unintentionally. So there was no such intention in James' mind that has been conveyed to me by him. Moving further, I also want to apologize for how how Sirius felt regarding the his dismissal of the by the board. But as we all know, there had been quite a few circumstances. I don't say Sirius has definitely taken over during a time of crisis, I would say. In 2011 when he took over, it was a time of crisis, and he really gave his best and took many good decisions during his tenure. But there have also been major decisions that turned out really bad for the company. Our conglomerate that consists of over 30 companies, there have been involvement of 4 to 5 major subsidiaries, wherein and the decisions that were taken by Mr. Sirius did not turn out to be really beneficial for the company. One of them being one of them, which is my major concern today, is about the case of the Damascus Financial Investment Holdings, one of the subsidiaries of DSPL Group, that wherein they had to. It was projected that if the assets decrease by a certain percentage, the loss would be greater than even the current market capitalization. Despite of the fact, or despite of this projection, I am unable to understand the mindset behind which Sirius took this decision and sold the assets below that level, below that percentage. So I would here pose this question as to why this happened, what happened. Also, talking about the relationship between James and Daniel, as very well explained by Mr. Sirius, the relationship has been one of a kind, and it was a very beautiful relationship wherein they have both helped each other in both of their developments. Now, and there was immense trust, I would say, immense trust in their relationship that they had. But with time, this trust has gotten down because of some business decisions and some business, involvement here and there. So there has been constant decline of trust, I would say, not between James and Daniel per se, but between the two business conglomerates. So to be very open and upfront about it, today I am not looking to I want to enhance this relationship, but only from a business perspective. I don't want to make it any more than I want to keep it professional and business related. I don't say that I doubt the capabilities or uh, uh, doubt the decisions that had been made by Mr. Sirius. They must have been made by his best of capabilities, or best of his at the best of his knowledge. But though it might have been the best at the best of his knowledge, but it turned out bad for the company, and that is what I am looking at, and that is what my focus is today, to enhance both the companies and to go on and build. Take out a solution that would benefit both the companies in the long run, because now when we see the situation in public itself, both the companies have gotten down and the goodwill of both the companies have decreased. So I know how important goodwill of a company is, being a business person. So that is one thing that I wanted to touch upon. And about the Damascus coupons also, the increasing of the stakes here and there had been a lot of other decisions as well, which we can delve upon later in the session. But my major agendas, or I would say the major issues that I'm concerned about right now, as I said, I want a business relationship and I want to enhance the business part of this relationship, and I want to keep it professional. So I would also want to discuss about the restructuring of the stakes, as Zia also mentioned, restructuring of the stakes. I think that is very important for us at this point of at this juncture, and it is also important to discuss what has happened so that we can correct it and we can prevent it from happening in future. Now again, I think I've covered most of the part, and to just summarize it and briefly put up or crisp in a crisp language, just point out the agendas. I think my council would be in a much better position to do that. Also, most of my technical aspects. Excuse me if I make any technical errors in the session, or about the about the numerics as well. So excuse me for that if I do that. And yeah, about the restructuring of company, we can discuss that. Even in the subsidiary companies, we are willing to give a stake of that, if to show business trust, show the trust of our business, if that is something that interests Meriwether conglomerate. So I guess I've covered it all. Passing on to my council with just one thought, that I am hoping that this session would result, not major, not minor. I'm not hoping for anything major decision to be taken just in 60 minutes, or just hastily, I would say. But I would want something substantial from this session, and a better position, as Zia also mentioned, that we would want to clear out the air in jest. So yeah, that is something I'm looking at. Thank you.
Thank you, William, for that introduction. I think William has covered almost all of the details related to the deal. I'll just deal with the figures. So, a very good afternoon to everyone. Again, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Alexander Hamilton. You can refer to me by my first name, Alex, because it's a mediation. And in mediation, it's necessary we let ourselves loose a little bit from the tense environments of the litigation field that we are in. And as general counsel, I'm sure Zia would agree with me. Mediations help in businesses, especially over litigations which are very tedious, like tiring, involve a lot of money, and take a lot of our times. Therefore, we are very thankful that the other side, especially Zia and Mr. Sirius, they have extended their invitation to us by triggering this mediation clause. And I hope that during the course of this mediations, we have something fruitful with us. Of course, I'd like to add a bit of cautions. As I said before, mediations is a little bit laid back, as has been expressed by both the mediators. And we want to proceed cautiously and steadily rather than jumping into decisions, jumping into haphazard decisions that we might later regret. Therefore, we want to clear the air a bit first, and then perhaps talk about something involving with the figures, because it can get very confusing. Now, I'd like to thank the mediators. They have spared their Sunday afternoon to come and mediate on the session. It's great to see them, and it's my client's first mediation, so I hope that you'll be guiding towards him. And William is a great sport. He learns things quite quickly. So if under your guidance, I hope that this mediation can proceed in a very fruitful manner. Thank you so much. And Ms. Mediator, Jan, I must congratulate you on your sonar use. I think it was absolutely brilliant. The phrase that you use, I think it set a tone for the entire mediation, and we can restrict ourselves to them. So, not taking much of the time. First of all, Sirius, I'm really sorry for the loss of your father, as my client stated before. Mr. The owner of the company, or the part owner of the company, Mr. James, he was a little bit preoccupied, therefore he couldn't come due to health issues, and he has expressed through us his sorry towards the loss of your father. Now, I'll just take the issues at hand and highlight the particular interests that we have during the course of this mediation. Number one, we'd like some sort of clarity as to why some decisions were made by Sirius. Particularly, I am emphasizing on the deals that he took part in when he became the chairman. Starting from the curious case of raising funds for DM, that is Damascus Motors, to fund the project of Treta by borrowing money from the subsidiaries of DSPL. No, it's something which raised eyebrows in the boardrooms of our board of directors meetings. Therefore, we'd like some sort of clarity to that. Secondly, I take a little bit of more time and highlight it so that it doesn't get stuck in between. So bear with me a little bit. Secondly, we want some clarity. Our board of directors and everyone present, every executive really wants some clarity on what happened as to DFIH, the Damascus Financials Investment Holdings. It had taken mortgages, and if the mortgages went below a certain level, that was 25% of their value, they were to be sold. And the action taken by Mr. Sirius of selling them by selling each and every assets of the company or liquidating the company, we want to note that. And in addition, we want to know as to some allegations has been made about a hostile takeover in the media. We want you to address that. Therefore, I have encapsulated all our interest in one. We want to restructure the deal. That is a part which I think William also explained. And I have encapsulated agenda points where we can talk a little bit more on these issues. If I have permission of the mediators, may I put those issues on the chat box? And then we can discuss? Sure. So, are all the agenda points perfectly legible? Of course, these agenda points suggested by me are in no way, shape, or form in the final form. We are willing to amend them. We are willing to take suggestions as to what should be added in them or subtracted in them. Of course, there has been some sort of suggestions, the agendas which has been posted by the other parties. And here we would like the mediators' helps to structure the mediation in such a way that we first cover all the underlying issues as to why the dispute happened. Then we move on to the nitty-gritties and the final solutions, if I may permit. And just a little bit from my side as well, a little bit of a point. If during the course of this mediation, if my voice breaks or my video despairs or I disappear for a matter, or if I have to speak loudly or clearly, please interject and tell me so that I can immediately reconnect and rectify the issue at hand. We are willing to hope that this will be a very fruitful mediation session, and we are willing to take it slowly. So over to you, mediators. Please, if you could suggest and alter the agendas, perhaps.
All right. Thank you, Council, for that very structured agenda setting. So, first of all, I'd like to, deliberate upon the agendas a little. I mean, but before that, I'd like to acknowledge that both the parties are trying to solve this in such an amenable manner. I mean, both the clients recognizing each other's personal, putting that person feelings outside and acknowledging that they're just directly being apologetic. That's the first step that I see towards a positive attitude, and that's going to help us a lot in reaching the objective of mediation quite quicker. Now let's get down to the agenda setting. So the first, I noticed that there are certain similarities between both the agenda set by both the parties. So I think my co-mediator and all the parties will agree with me that before we get into the business talk, we can start talking about how to solve the issues first. Just clear the air. Why I did what I did. Why what happened. So I guess we can do that, right? So the first agenda, I guess, can be the current situation. So why were certain decisions taken the way they were taken? And also that includes the removal of Mr. Cyrus. These two can be amalgamated. Yeah, and that can be the first agenda. Is it I'm and this is the order. So if you feel the order should be changed, please interrupt me in between and I will be changing the order. So this is the first agenda. The second agenda, the expectations of the parties, I think, can be amalgamated in the like towards the end of the first one. Like after you clear the air out, like what are you expecting from me? I think that can be dealt it, in parts with in all the agendas. And then finally, the third agenda is the restructuring of the stakes. I guess both the parties wanted this, right? So are you fine with this being the second agenda? All right, works. And yeah, and the last thing, future relationships, I guess I think my co-mediator would agree with me. They should be dealt upon by both the parties, because that sets, a goal, like you're working towards something, and that sets a positive tone. So future collaborations or future opportunities. Yes, counsel.
Yes, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I think you've stated the agendas quite brilliantly. However, there's just a little suggestion from my side.
Yes.
What I wanted to do was by suggesting that we take agenda two, what my initial agenda two was, the expectations of the parties separately, is once we clear the air, I want it to be taken as a separate item so that we know after the air is cleared where exactly the parties stand and what do they want out of this mediation session, which will help the fourth agenda that I have stated, which is future relationships and opportunities. If you have any suggestions as to it.
No, actually, okay. So basically, what you're trying to say is, after you clear the air out, you just want to set the ground, basically lay down your expectations from them, right? All right. Counsel, you wanted to respond to that? Please go ahead.
Yes. So regarding the same, firstly, we just wanted a little clarification regarding the agenda one, and also, of course, I mean, Mr. Alex, thank you so much for comprehensively laying them down. Making a job easier. However, could you please explain that what actually do you expect, from us to deliberate upon in the current situation? Is it only regarding the concerns raised by Mr. William, or there is something else also to it? And also, we also have a suggestion for the restructuring of the agendas. We feel that restructuring the stakes of the companies in the parent group is synonymous with the expectations that they have. And expectations and future relationships can be dealt with together. That would also save time, and that would be in the natural flow of thoughts and discussion. Do you agree with me?
All right. Before I give the floor to Mr. Alex, from what I've gathered from the speech of Mr. Opening statement, so what they want to clarify is why certain business decisions were taken, why the stakes were sold at such a low price, for example, and also address certain concerns about the hostile takeover in the media. Just clear the air out over there. Those were the issues. Mr. Alex, please add on to this, or if I've interpreted this in a different way, please correct it. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Mediator. You have perfectly summarized it well, the agenda one. Regarding the concerns raised by Zia, we want it separately because I think we don't want cluttering of the situation, right? If one agenda clutters into another, what we have is a very big cobweb of stuff, cobweb of problems that we will confuse with each other. Therefore, these agendas suggested by me are stated in this manner to clear the air first, then set out what our expectations are, then move on to the solutions part, which will be done in the restructuring part and the future relations part. If I'm clear on that one, but I'm also open to your suggestion to a certain extent, but I want the expectations set out particularly clearly.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. Your reasoning is perfectly understandable, and we also understand it to a certain extent. However, there is a principle that says once we are done with the bigger blockade of work, we can get on to the smaller blockades. Right now, we feel that the restructuring of the stakes, because after all, many subsidiaries are involved in this, right? So, if we could talk on this more and talk on this in prior, I mean, we can go either way, but this should not be compromised with. This is what we essentially want to say here. And just a clarification that, just a quick clarification that my client, Mr. Sirius, he has just been through a emotional turmoil. So sometimes it may happen that I may speak for him some points, because after all, the emotions often get blurred. They actually blur the reasoning and the conscious thoughts. So please bear with us on that.
If I may take, sure, we would go ahead and discuss. We are never, we are not going to, leave such an important discussion at hold, and we would go ahead and discuss the restructuring. And for discussing the restructuring, it's important to know what are you expecting out of the restructured company, or as we say it. So I think the order should be we should begin with discussing the agenda, and then we'll definitely not miss this substantial point.
Mr. Kamsin, raise your hand. Yes.
Yeah. If I may, might I suggest a thing, a meeting points of sort, perhaps the original suggestion by Mr. Mediator. We can merge the first and second agenda. However, we want to discuss the expectations part quite clearly, and there I think we will need the help of the mediator. So if we merge the first two agendas, then we can give more time to the third agenda, which can be taken as a second agenda, the restructuring part, which is also your concern, Zia. Am I right?
So, Ms.
Perfect.
Ria,
That makes sense to us.
yes, what Mr. Council is suggesting here is that the current situation and events leading to Mr. Sirius removal, plus the expectations that they wish to discuss, could be put forth as the first agenda. Moving on to the second agenda being the restructuring of the stakes of the company, and finally the future relationships that both the companies would wish to discuss. So I hope that is something that both the parties would like to agree upon. Okay, so we'll be adding the agendas in the chat box. However, anytime you feel that there's a need for a private session, that whatever you wish to discuss is not being able to discuss in the upcoming agendas, you might. It's just a reminder to the parties that you could always opt for a private caucus. So I posted the final agendas, and I believe we can start with the first agenda, that is the current situation and the events which led to Mr. Sirius removal, and the expectation of both the parties with respect to the restructuring and other details. So either of the parties may please proceed.
So if Zia on behalf of Sirius, or Mr. Sirius could directly first begin by answering the questions that I had posed in opening statement. If you want me to repeat them, or
It's perfectly fine. I
Okay.
do remember the question. So, first of all, beginning with the first question that was posed, that why the funds from other subsidiaries were pumped into DM. So I have pointed out in my opening statement also that it was the dream of our chairman emeritus, Mr. James, that they have to he have to build a car for the people of our country, which they can afford at a price of a bike. They can have a car, their dream of owning a car which is so much affordable that in the rainy weather, when people think that I wish I had a car, so this thought should not occur into their mind. They just have to take out their keys and they just can go where they want. So to make this project, to make this dream a living project, that was the major reason why funds were taken from other subsidiaries and they were pumped into Damascus Motors to make the car which is so much affordable. And relating to the other issue of DFIH, so first I want to clarify that I did not sell whole of the assets of the company. As the major reason and the asset which was sold, they were the securities in the form of mortgage, and they were a bunch of tranches of different ratings which were trenched combinedly, so that they had a good rating and they eventually inside of those trenches, the people outside would not know what's inside those trenches. They are a bunch of like shady securities which were used by the company DFIH for earning profit. So it is clearly known to the risk assessment team. The risk assessment team clearly approached me for taking action against for taking such action, because if the value of those assets, which were the mortgage, goes below 25%, the losses would be humongous, that the whole company would be shut down. We do recognize how much big threat this is, that a whole company have to be shut down. So being a chairman of a company, I cannot take such a big risk on for making some profits, and uh, which is putting the future of the company at risk. So this was the major reason why I sold. I just wanted to get rid of those securities because they were detrimental to the future of the company. If those prices gone below 25%, we know the loss, and there were high chances that the uh, price were depleting, and it would have gone to even zero. So we do realize how much big the risk was, and it was not my personal decision. I was approached by the risk assessment team, who suggested me what have to be done in order to make a company free from such a liability that was so big that it can eat up the whole company. And another issue which was also posed by the Mr. William, that I was trying to do hostile takeover. I mean, why would I do such a thing when we have such a good relation with DSPL? The company itself is so big that even though MSP wanted to acquire that company, we couldn't have simply done it. The company is so big, and hostile takeover, I would have not even thought of it, and I don't know where this term come from, that I wanted to the hostile takeover. I just wanted to keep the company afloat, and I did what it has to be done in order to do the business in a proper way, and all my decisions were taken in a bona fide way only. And the issue of DFIH and DM Motors, they were the issues that were of pertinent nature, and they were not of only beneficial for the company or personally to me, but as a whole to the conglomerate. Both the conglomerate, they were profitable. And my council would like to shed more light on the basic nitty-gritties and the percentage of equity that was involved in taking those decisions.
So, corroborating to what my client has said regarding these facts, I would be representing the numbers in factual arena. So, in the first issue about, pumping investments into Damascus Motors, such huge amounts of investments, why? So, the rationale behind the same was that when we tried to lower the cost of each product, that is a car, because we were building affordable cars. So for that, certain innovations plus sustainable innovations. So where innovation meets sustainability, there are certain costs that are incurred at the very initial stage, but later on the profits actually overtake. So initially we did need some great investment to manifest this dream of car Treta, which was the dream. Regarding the second issue, this decision by my client, Mr. Sirius, was taken based on a mathematical estimate that if we give it back to the investors, the assets, which were primarily non-performing assets. Non-performing assets means the assets which generate no or minimal profits and are very close to being loss-making and stagnant in terms of growth. So these non-performing assets could do better with fluctuation in their value if they were given over to the investors. After all, the stock market, we are all aware of how volatile it is, right? Thirdly, regarding the hostile takeover, I would just add a point that if I have been associated with them for years, and I understand that if they had any such intentions, then they would not have made the offer to buy the motors company, that is the Damascus Motors, which had all been in losses after the grand failure of the sales of Treta car in market. Treta car in market was a huge, failure, and they tried to buy it so that it does not become insolvent. So why would they take such a risk on their company if they had any such intentions? They could just have done away with it and just have, come to the profits. So these are the points. Yes, Mr. Alex.
Yes. Before I give the floor to Mr. Alex, just to summarize what has been stated with respect to the first point, as in why the investments were done in DM, the party has stated that due to the initial stage wherein there were more investments needed for the production of the car Treta, they needed more investments, and hence that is why it was done. Secondly, the assets that were given to the investors back, they were NPAs, they were non-performing assets, and hence it was a better move that they thought on their end to do so. Finally, the takeover, with respect to the takeover that has been done, they have stated that they did not have any malign intention towards taking it over, because anyways, because of the failure of the car, the company would have been in losses, and they only did that to prevent the company, to prevent DM from becoming insolvent. So, Mr. Alex, we recognized earlier that you had raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, certainly, mediator. I just wanted to clarify my point on hostile takeover. I'm not alleging the exact hostile takeover was attempted by MCG, but it was suggested in a lot of platforms that there were events that led to the sale of DC, that is Damascus coupons, and then the further proposed sale of the Damascus motors. It was done in such a way as to insinuate a hostile takeover. All of these were mere allegations, and I wanted you to clear the air a bit on these points. Secondly, replying to Ms. Zia's answers and asking further questions to clarify a little bit more air. You mentioned that funds were to be raised immediately after the project went. The project was in process. The project of Treta. My client has certain questions regarding that, and he'll be in great positions to ask them. And it would be great for us if we clarify the air on those questions.
Yes. Firstly, I also wanted to mention this in the opening statement. I missed this point, that I totally appreciate serious work in James' dream of building a reasonable car that is affordable for everyone and affordable for lower middle class as well, and his work for Treta that he has done. And I totally recognize after your statement how emotionally involved you are in that project. And relating to the same, pertaining to the same, I have certain offers that I'll be putting up in the further agendas, because I don't want to combine those agendas, but just to put an overview. So this was one point, but while I do the same, I want to ask you that was there any other buyer apart from MCG while you diluted some of the stakes to MCG, or MCG became the buyer of many of the deals that you had cracked while you were in position? So were there any other buyers or any other conglomerate which could have been involved apart from MCG? Was there an option that you had? Plus, apart from that, I would, in the DC sale, I mean, in the Damascus coupon sale, and in Damascus Motors sale, so in all of that. Plus, in DFIH's case, I'm still shocked, because being in this industry, when a projection like this comes up, and I mean, the decision taken by you must have been best at your knowledge, as I've already mentioned in my opening statement. But I still don't get how you could sell all of those assets that were not performing to the novice investors, especially. So if you can, if there's any other point that you're missing, I totally get that you did the best you could. Yes, Alex, if I'm missing.
If I may add to what my client said, all these assets, they were sold at a very heavily discounted price to novice investors. This is not something which is a very great decision on our part, and the board of directors raised a lot of eyebrows on this one, because if it had to be sold, all the shares of all the assets of DFIH had to be sold, they would have been sold to perhaps a more experienced hand, if I may say so. Can you explain why were they sold to novice investors in the first place? And secondly, at a very heavily discounted price.
My humble apologies if I'm interjecting. There's a point where I feel we should set a benchmark, take certain things off. So, firstly, I feel we have cleared out the air, but correct me if I'm wrong, both the parties, about the issues, the hostile takeover incident. So, the air is cleared over there, right? That was just, it was not an allegation, it was merely a rumor. But now, since the client has clearly stated that he wouldn't do that because he's emotionally invested in the company. So, I guess both the parties are clear that that part of the agenda can be ticked off as resolved.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If I may, the hostile takeover part is in tangent with the sale of DM as well, and there is no explanation on that part. Perhaps we would like some sort of explanation before we clear the entire air on this, because those were serious allegations and the raising of them need clarifications. Secondly, Zia mentioned that there needs to be a clarification issued. Perhaps those should that explanation that they're going to give, Sirius is going to give with the help of Zia, that can be included in the clarification so that the market forces recognize that it wasn't a hostile takeover, and the negative air that is coming, that is affecting the stocks of the company, that won't affect them that much, and perhaps the stocks will also rise on that. So we need clarifications because of that on the hostile takeover point. Then we may conclude.
All right, so maybe we can say that you just recognize that it was it's not an allegation, but you just want to deliberate more upon this.
No, what I said was it's a serious allegations, and there needs to be a clarification issued in the public as to why these actions were taken, so as to clear the air that this was not an hostile takeover.
Understood.
Because
Understood.
those allegations are very serious.
Understood. Perfectly clear. So, in tandem with this, you'd also like to discuss why they were sold at such such discounted prices to novice investors. Correct? You want that question answered mainly.
Yes, because it's part of our problem, and it helps in the hostile takeover bit a little bit.
Perfect. Perfect. I hope that was interpreted well. I mean, in the similar sense that it was said by Mr. Alex by the counsel and the client of Mayweather. All right. Perfect. So you guys can go on. You can. Sorry, apologies again if I interjected your train of thought, but please continue.
It's okay. I mean, it's quite understandable for the mediator. This actually gave us more clarity. So, with regards to this, first, my client has something to say.
So, as regards to the acquisition of Damascus Coupon, so I'd like to shed light on its accusation. Like we purchased MCG purchased 49% of equity in Damascus Coupons only because the DSPL was in need of funds for the manufacturing and research and development department for making Treta a living car. So that was the major reason, and it not only benefited MSG, but a clause in contract was included in which DSPL was given access to our online e-commerce store on which their product was sold, and we all know how on boom e-commerce is on boom now. Like people don't like to go outside their home to buy grocery; they just want it to be delivered online on their doorstep. So this was not only beneficial for MSG, but it has double benefit for DSPL. First of all, they got the fund for the manufacturing of car Treta. Second of all, they got access to our e-commerce, which we are pretty big in that business. So because of that very reason, they also minted profit, and they used and those and let regards the acquisition, the equity which Damascus Coupon have in DSPL Limited. So we didn't get the whole of the equity, but there was a call offer on our part that we can acquire if we want that equity in a period of 3 to 10 years. So they cannot allege that we are doing all those acquisitions just to have more equity in DSPL. That was discretion on our part, and there is no clarification to them that we have been we are readily buying those whole of 3.8% of equity, but it is only planned. We are not in any of we are not in any mood to acquire those equity of DSPL, but we only wanted this uh, I can say collaboration to work, as it was beneficial for DSPL as well as MSG. And as regard the there are takeover of DM Motors. So as already stated by my counsel that after the launch of car Treta, DM was a huge loss-making company. If had not been we offered investment, it would have went bankrupt. And it was very dear to Mr. James Damascus, as he had been a visionary in the car market too.
Adding on to what he has said. So, actually, regarding this, we also have, we also want a clarification from you, Mr. William, that soon after Mr. Sirius was removed from his office as the chairperson of DSPL, why was such a hasty decision taken with regards to the sale of Damascus Motors? So, for just reiterating for the sake of clarity, there was an agreement between MCG and DSPL that the following companies shall not be collaborated with by DSPL, or there shall be no sale of the assets to these companies. Ryback was one of them. Soon after he was removed from his office, the company of Damascus Motors, or the subsidiary of Damascus Motors, was sold to them. And why was such a hasty decision taken? If you are clearing the air, let's just shed some light on this issue as well. What do you say?
Okay, Mr. William, before you proceed, I'd like to clarify here that what Zia and their client have stated here is that the sale of 49% of DCs, the coupons, equity was only done so as to raise funds for DSPL to invest in the Treta car that was being produced. Further, the rest of the equity at the rate of 3.8%, they provided a timeline of 3 to 10 years for that to be sold. And the question that they have posed to you is that why was DM sold in such a haste after the removal of Mr. Sirius, that too to the company that with which both the companies, DSPL and MCG, had an explicit agreement to that they would not collaborate with the company. So, Mr. William, the floor is yours, please.
Yes, thank you so much, Madam Mediator. Actually, so it might have been a hasty decision, but it wasn't a decision on my own that I had taken. I was given this position at a very bad stage, like you were at your time, Mr. Sirius. So I had to take an immediate and fast decision, and my team had to make a fast decision that was made as per an analysis. And me and my team had made proper analysis, and then decided after, when we were posed with no other option, but we had to go and sell up the part of DM to MCG. So that so that was done only for the best interest of my company, and there was no other intention in the same. Following this, I would also want to say that though Mr. Sirius has taken the best decisions, but they did not end up well, and there has been a breach of trust that is important to us. I mean, bad decisions are taken up by every businessman, and you cannot predict. We are in such an industry that we cannot predict how our decisions are going to end up for our company. Like I had taken this hasty decision. So relating to that only, our trust was breached, and therefore the board also took the decision of removing or dismissal of Mr. Sirius. And but to build back that trust, or because I don't think you can get back trust in businesses, especially as soon as you get in other places. But I believe that we can still work out something, and that is why we are willing to give you the stakes of the subsidiary companies. But we are not still unsure about giving you the stakes in any other company of any other holding company, I would say, as we call it. So, Alex, if I'm missing out anything, please add.
Yes, if I may add to that, the decision of removing Mr. Sirius was done perhaps haphazardly, but it was supported by the board of directors, particularly because the board of directors were very saddened or grieved by the performance of Mr. Sirius. Now, we all acknowledge that Mr. Sirius was performing to the best of his intention and ability. However, in a business, results matter. And when results are not showcased, heads fall, as they say in a boardroom. Therefore, the board of directors perhaps took the decision, and it was supported by the majority of them, to remove Mr. Sirius. Now, it was done in a haphazard. If it was done in a haphazard manner, we apologize for that, and my client has duly apologized for that. Secondly, I'd like to clear the air on the DM part, the Damascus Motors part. Damascus Motors was supported initially. It was credited by the companies, the other subsidiaries of DSPL. And it was a decision that was taken by Mr. Sirius in the beginning itself when he ascended to the chairmanship of the company, that is the holding company DSPL. When it was sold, we had to pay back the creditors and build up a lot of NPAs, bad NPAs, not only on DM, but on Damascus coupons, which was acquired in the tenure of Mr. Sirius by the MCG, and it was and it had created an NPA of 3,000 to 3,500. Therefore, we had asked you the questions: were there possibly any other buyers? Because that hints at a possible hostile takeover. Secondly, having that having that option of exercising to buy another 3.8 from the other investors of the company also hints into the allegation. That's why we wanted to ask you the question. Therefore, I'll just summarize it up a little bit. We have taken a lot of time. We have taken a lot of time discussing this, and it's perhaps in the best of our interest that we move to the restructuring deal, if we can. And if we cannot, then I'd suggest a caucus, because we'd like to involve mediators at this juncture.
Yeah, I feel this is a great time to call for a caucus. But before that, I think the council wanted to respond to that question. So please go ahead, council.
Yes, actually, we had raised our hand around 4-5 minutes ago. Firstly, please answer
I
this.
just wanted a clarification from your side on the question that there was a contract between DSPL and MSG regarding when we acquired 49% stake in Damascus Coupon. And the agreement clearly stated that not any part of Damascus Coupon will be sold to any of these 5 companies that were mentioned in the contract without consulting MSG beforehand. But as soon as I was removed as the chairman, I don't know why such a hasty decision was taken, and part of the company, 26% of the equity, was sold to Ryback Industry. That is a blatant breach of contract, and that is the major reason that there have been issues in both the companies. So I wanted a clarification as to why it was done, and I also demands compensation, because there was breach of contract on your side, and because of that we have suffered losses.
So actually, thank you, Mr. Alex, because even I had raised the hand because we could clearly see that we have reached a deadlock here, where our interests are going in the opposite directions and we are not able to come together. Although certain questions regarding why this hasty decision was taken or why even Mr. Sirius was removed from his office have not been answered very elaboratively. However, we understand the time constraints here, and hence we would actually like to discuss with the mediators in a caucus regarding our interests and expectations out of this restructuring and everything. So could we just go for a caucus?
Yes.
Ms. Dia, we understand your call for the caucus. Although considering that Mr. Alex was the first one to propose, we are just suggesting here that if it is feasible for us to have a caucus with them first.
We will immediately be getting back to you after their
Yes.
caucus is finished. Is that acceptable, no?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
thank you.
Thank you so much. We request you to leave the meeting, please, so we could have the meeting with Mr. William and Mr. Alex.
Apologies, but we do not see the option here to go to the main meeting.
Yeah.
This is the main meeting. You'll have to drop the meeting.
OC, could you help us out over here?
Could we just cancel out this meeting or leave this meeting?
let the OC come. OC, I request the time to be paused over here because we're facing some
Yeah, I'll
technical.
just assign the breakout rooms to the teams.
And yes, please.
I believe I'm being invited to a breakout room. Wasn't the other party supposed to go?
Yes.
OC, could you please invite team code 214 to the breakout room, please? Yes, they've left the meeting. So, Mr. Alex and Mr. William, this is your private caucus meeting. Before we go ahead, I'd like to reassure, as my co-mediator had already stated earlier, that this meeting is highly confidential. Nothing that you state here will go to the other party unless and until we are provided a clear green signal by on your end to disclose it to the other party in the main meeting. So going ahead, we are clearly facing a deadlock. We'd wish for you to reinstate your positions and interests and as to what is your main concern in today's meeting, today's session with the other party. Please.
Thank you, Madam Mediator. Actually, I think there have been many going back and forth for the clarification itself, and there have been no setting out of clear expectations of their interest, as my counsel had repeatedly told that we want your expectations to be set out clearly. So that is how we'll be able to deal with it, right? We are here to solve their or pertain to their or clear out their expectations or relate to their or solve out their expectations, help in fulfilling their expectations, but there have been no setting up clearly of their expectations. So we would just go ahead and start by saying that we want restructuring of our shareholding, first of all, and secondly, we don't want I don't want you to disclose it per se right now, but in the course of the session we might go and disclose it, but we don't want right now to give any substantial position in the holding company to them, or any core position to Mr. Sirius or to any of his well-wishers, but we are willing to give them any position in the subsidiary companies. So that is something we are willing to give, but also about one of the concerns that one of the offers that I had already put up briefly about Treta, that we would they are actually we actually appreciate MCG's position about of their renewable energy sources that they have. So we would actually want them to while we are willing to give our stakes in the subsidiary companies to them, we would want to have some support. Since we have also seen emotional confidence in them, we would want some support, and we can move in and decide if they want some share in DM, that is Damascus Motors, and or Treta, or the business deal of Treta per se, and we can work something around it because we need help from them in the renewable energy sources. So if they can do that, that would be great. I think that is something of our importance. And lastly, as Alex also mentioned, that we would want a public statement regarding clearing the air about the hostile takeover or whatever that was, because of which both of our goodwill has reduced, has gone for a downfall. So if they're not willing to issue a public statement from their end, we can go ahead and issue a joint statement. Maybe, Alex, would that be favorable for us?
Yes, I think we need to clear the air regarding the hostile takeover because it's affecting the shares of both the companies. Since MCG is also an investment group, it's also been affected here. But I'd like to take the time and appreciate that this mediation session has been not been going as well as we expected. But I think it's expected out of such a complex situation, and I think the mediators have handled, as mediators have handled it well. Secondly, I have this concern regarding some of the things that has been stated by my client, William. Of course, as the mediators can also sense, there has been a breach of trust on both the sides. There has been some hasty decisions, and I'd just like to point it out specifically what breaches that have happened. Firstly, Damascus Coupons. It was a company that was originally a creditor to Damascus Motors, and all of this happened in Mr. Sirius's tenure. And as a result of which, a lot of NPAs were caused in Damascus Coupons, which was stated that this is the reason that Damascus Coupon is being bought out by MCG. Now that looks at the very outset from the outside not a great business deal. Secondly, when Mr. Sirius was the chairperson of the company, MCG gave a list which was approved by Mr. Sirius. We do not know as to how it happened, but it shouldn't. We feel, and my client feels that it shouldn't limit us to take decisions. We are an open company,
And even
and
the board, I would say.
yes, even the board. My client is unanimously representing the board before you. Therefore, it's the view of the board that these kind of decisions should not bind us in the future deals. Damascus Motors was in a very precarious situation in the end, and as a result of which it had to be sold to offset the NPAs that we had on Damascus Motors, because it was a failed product in the end, and it all happened during the course of Mr. Serious's tenure. Of course, we're not blaming entirely, we're not placing the entire blame on him, but we're saying that this does not inspire the confidence of the board of directors. That is why he was removed, perhaps haphazardly by us, and therefore we are saying that we do not want to discuss legal jargons with them. They have been stating that they want to there's a breach of agreement on our part, but however, that breach of agreement, that was signed, that is being mentioned here, it was signed during the course of Mr. Sirius. It was signed with a company that is owned by Mr. Sirius. Therefore, it raises a lot of questions, and therefore there is a lack of trust between both parties. Therefore, I'd like to request you if you can give the solutions to them as to what our expectations are, which my client clearly stated it out. Number one, if I can take another half a minute to say them. Thank you. So, as my client very well mentioned, we are looking that they do not have a substantial role to play in the administrative positions of the holding company, that is DLSP. And to compensate that, we are willing to buy the majority of their positions in the holding company. However, we are willing to make some sacrifices and give them holding of a substantial amount of shares in the subsidiary companies, depending on their interest, which they have to yet state out. And my client has heavily emphasized on this point, and I'd like you to particularly point this out, perhaps during the course, that we are interested in their renewable energy business. We expect that the Damascus Motors would be great if renewable energy initiatives and their ventures could be merged with them. So perhaps something that this is something we'd like to discuss during the course of this mediation, which my client would love to discuss.
Yes, about the renewable energy, I would be able to discuss. But also, I would like to say that when we move into a joint session, I would not want to go again into the clarifications part, because I think there has been a lot of discussions over that. Plus, I also believe there has been a question of mine that I'm sorry if the mediator wants to take over.
Yes,
I would.
So, Mr. William, we do consider the fact that you do not wish to go into the aspect of clarification. So, just a little clarification here. Would you like to pick up the?
I think we should stop. The council's here. The council.
Sorry, have we been called back?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we can go into private caucus with the Mayweather conglomerate, and then we can join in the joint session discuss the nitty-gritties, right?
Definitely.
Yep.
We request Mr. William and Mr. Alex to leave the meeting,
Yes.
please. Or you could wait for the. Okay, there are no more here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think the time is really running by, and we did not expect that it will run too fast, because we haven't even touched upon the issue of restructuring, which was, as we mentioned, that pivotal for this discussion. However, so since we are in this caucus, we would keep our interest out and open in front of you. So my client, Mr. Sirius, is already disappointed for the three main reasons, and we are not yet satisfied with the answers because they haven't been able to answer our concerns and give a reasoning as to why this all was done as it was done. However, with them, we have of course adopted a collaborative approach of let bygones be bygones, and hence we want to actually maintain a cordial relationship with them since Mr. Daniel and Mr. James were friends, and we would not like to have any more dirt on our relationship. So, regarding that, we can, of course, go for a joint statement saying that things are okay. But, however, having seen this insensitive attitude of Mr. James, who even didn't turn up for this mediation session, and neither on the funeral of his friend and the father of my dear client. So, regarding this, we do not want to have any say in the day to day working of DSPL, Damascus and Sons. For that, we want to actually dilute our assets in their company, their shares, and we also want their shares in our company to be just, taken aback. For that, another thing is that we do not want to go beyond, less than 10% share in DSPL. So, what we want to make the offer to them is that in exchange of their whole equity, that is 22.4% share in our company, that we dilute for them, they dilute a total of 19.05% of our shares in their company, so that since total shares of ours in their company is 34.05%, we will still have a stakeholding of 15% in their company. So this will absolve us from the day-to-day obligations of functioning with them, because we clearly see no future with regards to the operations. And anything else that you would like to add, Mr. Sirius?
Also, we are interested in acquisition of DFIH, and we would like to retain Damascus coupon, which was deal earlier done, and we would like to claim compensation from them for the breach of contract which was done on their part. And as regards to, we want that the whole of the equity which they have in our company, that is 22.4%, should be reverted back to us. We are willing to buy it, and we are very much happy to liquidate our equity in their company, and we'll come down to 15%, which will be beneficial for both of us, and we can then work on further recourse.
All right.
So, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Jen. So, if the mediators are hearing it correct, you wish to reinstate with respect to the restructuring part that in exchange of the whole equity dilution of 22.04% in DSPL, you wish for a dilution of 19.05% of their equity in MCG. Is that correct?
No.
22.4%, not 0.
We want them to dilute whole of their equity in our company, and we would be diluting 19.05 of our equity in their company.
Yes.
In addition to, we want acquisition of DFIH,
and you would wish to retain DC with you, right? Correct. So, is this an offer that we can place to them in the joint session?
Yeah. This is what we are proposing.
All right, this works. So you're giving us a green light to it is not confidential information, right?
Please just do not talk about our 10% threshold in front of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Noted. So I think we'll be dealing with this in the joint session because our time's running out. Yes. So OC, could we please have the counsel and the client back?
Before we proceed, Jayant, with respect to the joint statement, if I could get a clarification from Mr. Sirius and Ms. Dia.
As the image of both the companies are tarnished because of this rivalry, so we want joint statement in that regard, that there is no rift between us, and we are together, and we can have a public face together, so that the shares are plummeting from the very same.
Yes.
All right, works. Understood. So now that we're running short on time, so if I could quickly summarize. See, although I've noticed that in both the caucuses, both the parties have certain reservations, right? That's the beauty of mediation. Eventually, you guys are coming to one of a same plane without actually communicating to each other directly in the joint session. So what I noticed here is, number one, the Mayweather conglomerate is actually pretty open to collaborating with the other party, that in regards with subsidiary companies and a joint statement. And even the council and the client proposed a joint statement regarding this. See, that's the beauty of mediation. And I hope, since we could not touch upon all the agendas for such a complex issue, I feel we could have been a bit more productive, but there's always more sessions of mediation we can do that with, right? So I think we can agree upon one thing. Please just give me a thumbs up if all four of you agree. So when we come upon the joint statement, so you want a joint statement regarding, just put it out there that, hey, listen, although it looks like we are rivals right now, but we do not want to be, and you want to clear the air upon Mr. Sirius being removed from the position. So you just want to clear the air. You guys are ready for that, right? The joint session. Okay. See, we settled upon that. And finally, the council already showed certain interest. Yes, council.
If I may, the contents of the statement would be discussed by us first before this, perhaps in the next mediation session.
Yes,
Sure,
so
sure.
considering the paucity of time in the present session, the contents of the joint statement will be discussed in the upcoming sessions. As of now, what is there on the table is that both the parties are agreeing to issue a joint statement that would reinsure the trust of the public in both the companies and reinstate the goodwill of both the companies. So before moving ahead, there's just an offer that was made by Mr. Sirius and their counsel, which Mr. William and their counsel could think upon or take time before the session to think upon and come to a resolution about the same. What they proposed was that in exchange of the whole equity dilution of their company, they'd expect a 19.05% of dilution of the shares of DSPL in MCG. Along with that, they propose that they would like to acquire DFIH while retaining the DC, that is to say, the Damascus coupons. So this is an offer which, due to the paucity of time, we could not. Yes, counsel, you raised your hand.
Yes, we just want to say that we are ready to repeat this offer in the next session, seeing the paucity of time. We are very much ready for it.
All right, great. So just one final thing before we conclude. So the council also showed certain interest in your renewable energy sector, and that's why they wanted to give the TRETA model or that part of the division of DM to you guys. So I guess this can be a really big breakthrough in your next session to consider. So yep, I guess that concludes this session.
Session for
And I'm sorry if you had certain other concerns, but in the next session we'll be sure to address it. So I mean, in the end, you guys are the heroes of this session. We just facilitated this. We helped you formulate a plan, at least come close to it. But you were the ones who put the effort here. As mediators, we did very little. Thank you for being so cooperative.
I'd like to thank the parties for today's session. Although there was some circling around in the beginning, I am really glad to say that due to the caucus session that was taken up with each of the parties, we have come to a conclusion of the joint statement, and that is something productive that we have taken up in this session. We could not have dealt with all the issues since there are so many technicalities involved, but this is something that is positive and hints towards a possible resolution of the whole issue in the upcoming sessions. So I'd like to thank the parties for their patience and for cooperating with each other with open mind and heart. I'd also like to thank my co-mediator for such a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, mediators, and thank you, Zia and Sirius, for being so cooperative.
Thank you so much, the mediators. You conducted it brilliantly, and I'd like to thank the other party for agreeing to come to this table. I think we can set the next mediation via mail, whatever date is suitable for every one of us. And thank you again.
I, on behalf of myself and my client, would like to heartily thank the mediators for their support and facilitating, and also to the opposite party. I, being driven by quotes, would like to quote that something is better than nothing, which we all can relate to after this session. So we are really looking forward to the next session of mediation. Thank you so much, and take care, all of you.
Thank you so much.
OC, that would be all. You can take over, please.
Thank you, everyone. This brings us to the end of the this round and the competition altogether. So I, after this, will assign rooms to judges, and they may join it kindly. After which they can come out and give the feedback to the participants, and then we declare the results in the valedictory session. So
How much time do we have for
Sorry, ma'am.
How much time do we get for scoring?
Ma'am, you can take your time. That
Thank you.
completely depends on you. But in case you want to discuss it with other panelists, we will be creating a room, a breakout room.
Okay, and we can just email it back to you, the score sheet?
Ma'am, as you fill the score sheet, we'll be able to access the scores that you have provided.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much. The judges are here. I request the panelists to please proceed with the feedback.
Perhaps I'll start off. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for their kind participation. Thank the university, the conveners, our esteemed judges, and all of the contestants. I thought that you all did a very good job. You were obviously well prepared. I know you spent scores and scores of hours preparing and brainstorming, and it certainly shows, and I think it paid off. I think these competitions have great value, gives you an opportunity to test and hone your skills and to interact with other professionals. So kudos to you for all your hard work and for excellent performances. So I just have just some general comments. The purpose of the feedback is obviously to highlight on things that you did well and to provide some constructive feedback for things that could be areas of improvement. Just starting with the mediators, I thought the opening statements were excellent. You ticked all the boxes. The use of SONAR was a great acronym. It spelled it out for everybody what you were doing. And I think that's one of the keys in any kind of meeting or endeavor, particularly a mediation, is to explain the process, what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and why. And I think you all did an admirable job doing that. I thought that the mediators worked well together too, as the clients. Often your transitions back and forth were seamless. I thought the agenda was good, but it was a little bit, I think, maybe cumbersome. And I think you had some difficulty with time management. In future, you may want to try to streamline the agenda a bit, because that is obviously the roadmap and it dictates the discussion and informs the negotiations. But if it's too ambitious, I think it's difficult, if not impossible, to really make progress during the mediation. And so my biggest concern would be time management and just trying to figure out a way to more succinctly state your agenda, the issues, and move into the negotiation. I timed the different, I guess, tranches of discussion, and you took about an hour before you even got into the negotiations. And that was the first caucus. And it seemed like maybe that the offer was a little bit hasty, but it was made. At least there was an offer made. But I think you were cognizant of the fact that you're running out of time. To me, the restructuring went hand in hand with expectations, but the restructuring was really the most important part of the mediation. And there really weren't any negotiations, or very few, dealing with offers, responses, counter offers, and that sort of thing. So I think you would have done well to have considered putting more time into thinking about the negotiations and how to approach them, especially from a time management point of view. One thing I share with students is that it's often good just to do several dry runs, just so you can see the time, see how you're doing, see if you're able to complete most or all of the things within the time allotted. That helps enormously. And it also gives you a chance to see yourself and to kind of put yourself in the other party's shoes. And I think it's very, very illuminating. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I think that you all you did a good job. There were clear expressions of what your interests were, and I think each side understood. But I think you could have moved quicker into the negotiations, and that's what I would have liked to have seen. But overall, I think you all were just excellent. Very impressed and enjoyed the performances immensely. So it's been an honor to be a part of this and to have the opportunity to assess you. And I wish you all the best in your careers and futures. And I think they'll be very bright. Thank you very much. With that, I'll turn the floor over to our esteemed panel of judges for their comments.
Thank you, Patrick. I think you have explained them in a very beautiful manner, explaining them all the things. So I think you have covered my aspects also, which I would also like to tell them. But I would like to congratulate to both the teams that both the team has done really very well. You have made our task very difficult to give you those marks and all. I will say only one quote, which it's always been my favorite one. I always tell my students these things only, that talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships. And for me, both of the teams are champions. So don't worry about the scores and everything. The only thing is that just work upon all the things, nitty-gritties, which Mr. Patrick has mentioned to you. And he has really crafted very, very well, and he have mentioned all the things to you in a very beautiful manner. Just go with it, and next time, just cover all those shortcomings, and then there's always a scope of improvement. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll go next. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the team members. You all did really well, very, very well. You all were very confident, very well prepared. It was very obvious you'd worked very hard for this. And the dedication and the time that's spent in it, and the interest that you had, actually most impressive, the fact that you all are so interested and you wanted to put your best forward and you wanted to learn the skills and you actually wanted to get into the roles that were assigned to you. I mean, whether it's a counselor's role or a mediator's role or the client's role, you were all trying to portray it very well. So I think congratulations for that. I'll also just like to give some very general comments, and then maybe if it's okay with everyone, I'll just give you some suggestions of very small examples, which in the next time, if you can just keep in mind, because this is a competition, and then when you are really looking forward to doing this in real life, some things may work and some may not. So I just have some very few suggestions, if that can be taken in a good spirit, and not because I want to, say this is wrong or something. Again, as I said, it was really well done. Both the mediators did very good, and both the teams did very well. If I will pick up on the mediators, I'll start with team 220. I think your introduction was very good. I loved your confidence level. I like the fact that you came in with so much energy. My only suggestion would be speak a little bit slowly. Maybe you were doing this because you had a time limit that the opening statement couldn't be longer than a few minutes, and 5 minutes, and you're being timed here. But I would recommend that you speak a little more slower. And that was not just for the opening statement, but throughout. I love the fact that you actually asked the parties every time that, are you following? Do you have any questions? You checked in with them if they had the authority to decide, which is very important. Because if the person who's sitting there at the table doesn't have the final authority to decide, no matter how well you navigate the process and no matter how well the other side is explaining, it's not going to work so well. I love that fact that you were checking in with them and you were checking about the authority. One suggestion, you mentioned, I'm sure you're not recording this, you mentioned to the parties. I would just rephrase it to say, we request you not to record it, because there's no way that you can be sure that they're not recording it. And the other time when one party put up after their opening statement and they put up their agenda, you said, okay, unless the other party has, you basically actually said, if I'm not wrong, is like, okay, this is the agenda. I would just rephrase and say, okay, we would love to, this is the 3 points that the first party has indicated as they would like to, reiterate for the agenda. And we'd like to listen to from the other side as well. And then if they have something to add, we can add that, or we can see where it goes from here. Don't make it a fixed point that this is definitely in the agenda or this is how it's going to be, because you might, if the other party doesn't take into account, that's good. But if the other party suddenly feels that, you've actually tilted to one side, that's not good. You just want to make sure that both parties feel that you're completely unbiased, which means you're not going to side with either of the side. Okay, she's raising her hand. Yeah, please come in.
Yeah, ma'am, I just wanted to clarify that the intention there that I had was to state that this is the agenda which the requesting party is proposing to. And I didn't happen to mention that in case the agendas align, these will be taken up as the agendas. Because in some sessions it happens that, the agendas align and then the same are put forth as the agendas. But I do consider in what sense it might have come off as.
Yes, I just want to make you a small suggestion. Make sure when you're choosing your words, you're very careful, not just whether it's for the agenda or it's for anything else. Just make sure anything that you're saying, imagine it's an exam. They are coming to talk about their, whatever their concerns are. But you as a mediator and your co-mediator are being judged from the moment you open your mouth and greet them, because they're forever trying to see, are you on their side, or are you on the other side, or are you being neutral? As long as you win their support and trust, and have a rapport with them, they will open up to you. Even if they don't open up in the joint session, they will open up to you very quickly in a caucus, and they will be able to tell you a lot of confidential information, which will be very helpful for you to navigate the process. But even if they raise a doubt of 5% in their mind that, you're tilting to the other side, that's not going to be going well for the whole process. So don't worry, as I said, these are just minor suggestions for you to keep in mind for the next time. And again, I like the way you summarized everything, after the statement. The one comment I have for both the mediators is I wish you both had asked for a caucus earlier. The deliberation about, clearing the air and what was happening went on for a very long time initially. And I didn't time it exactly, but if I'm not mistaken, the first party took almost 20-25 minutes to say their opening statement. And then the other party came in and they were still talking about what happened and how. You could have stepped, because they were going back and forth. So that is one time when you could have stepped in to take in a caucus. And going into mediator 2-3-2 team number, I think you had a really good beginning. I love the analogy that you gave in. You came in with a smile. You came in trying to make them more comfortable. So I love that. And the way you started saying, you appreciate that the other party is here and their attitude is there towards cooperation. So you're trying to basically get together everybody and make sure that they're on the page and you're welcoming them. I love the fact that when you came in and said, okay, so when they were talking about the hostile takeover, so you said, just want to clarify. So it was not that you're saying you're alleging that it was a hostile takeover and you're just saying it was a rumor. That was more to put one party at ease, saying, okay, you are getting agitated that this is an allegation, but maybe they're coming from a rumor's point of view, and suddenly emotions, cool down. Nobody likes to be accused of anything. So at that point, I think that was a good step. Just be mindful. Both of you, I think, did very well. Just be mindful of the time. Keep a clock, to see how many minutes each party is taking. In real life, of course, that wouldn't happen. But do be careful that if one party is taking a caucus session, make sure that you give at least the same amount of time for a caucus to the other party. In this case, you were literally running close to, the other party, maybe not getting that much time or not being able to round off if you did that. So. Going to the teams, I think each of you worked very well. The client and the advocates worked very well for both the teams. I think you had a very good understanding of each other. Nobody stepped in to, cut the other person in. You were covering for each other where you needed to. So I think that was good. For Mayweather team, the T214, I think you need to really keep a clock somewhere. And that's for everyone. But your opening statement was really long. If you had not taken that much time for the opening statement to come in, you could have focused that on more on your negotiations. So just be mindful about that. I like the fact that when you came in and you brought the human element that, you were emotionally upset about something, and that was a human element to bring in rather than just, okay, this is a contractual issue, this will not go, this did not go. you brought that in. You clearly at the outset mentioned that you mentioned you were upset about being removed as a chairman without any notice. The other point I had was at the end, you made your offer, and I'm wondering, is it only because you suddenly realized that there was a time crunch, or is it because you wanted to make the offer because you were still looking for clarifications? You still didn't feel like you had your answers to what you were looking for, why you were removed, why it was done in such a haphazard manner, why certain decisions were taken by them after you were not the chairman. And yeah, I'll come back to you. Don't worry. I saw that you're raising a hand. So just if it was a real life situation, I'm just wondering, would you have made that proposal at that time, but for the time crunch? And if not, then it's okay. Even in a competition, nobody is looking for an idea that you have to stay in and complete the mediation, have a final settlement. You may all do very well and still not come to a mutually accepted conclusion in real life. So that's perfectly fine. What the competition is really judging is, do you have the skills? If you are an advocate, are you standing in the advocate's role and looking out for your client's interest? If you're the client, are you portraying that very well? If you're the mediator, are you standing your ground and facilitating the process? You're being judged on that. Nobody is going to judge on the fact whether you have a settlement or not. I mean, that's for sure, right? For Zia, again, I like the idea that you came in and very clearly mentioned that you're only in an advisory capacity. You're here to support your client, and he's the person who's going to take the final decision. And you kind of laid it out clearly what you were looking for, what you actually wanted from the mediation, whether it is for the chairman's position, whether it is about the equity stake. Just mindful of the comment. And the only one thing what kind of struck out to me was that you said, he is in a different state right now, and there might be an emotional blur about taking some big decisions. So I'm going to take a role and I'm going to talk more. I would suggest you not to do that, because at some point you're kind of saying whatever he's saying, could be relegated to a lower position, because that might be true. He may not be in a perfect emotional state, but going into a negotiation room, you don't want to say that. You want to say that your CEO or your client, whoever he is in a perfect situation. And you can definitely highlight that he's hurt, he's going through some process, and whatever the other side did might hurt him. But just a suggestion, don't mention that, right? For the Damascus team, again, I think everybody did very well, and I'm just trying to be very picky in giving like one or two examples, and I hope they're going to be taken in the good spirit, so that you just be mindful of it, really. Because at this point, I have to say, even we all judges talk that judging you all would be very, very difficult, because you were all very nice. So, and William, you came down and said, it's not that James didn't come down because there was any business issue or there was a rivalry. So that was good. You picked up on the human element. You clarified that. That was really nice. And that kind of builds an emotional rapport, which I think is very good. But I'm wondering why you just kept reiterating, saying we want to keep this very professional business and we want to collaborate, but we want to do it on a very professional and business basis. Even if you've lost trust in the other person, you can mention that to the mediator, but why would you want to mention that right in the opening statement? You're actually telling the other party, I don't care for what you're feeling, and we're here only for the business part. You may do that, but you don't want to put them down. You don't want to snub them down. So just that was one thing that struck out to me. You made your points very clear, what you were looking for, whether it was as a chairman, why certain things were sold, why certain decisions were taken. But you weren't very forthcoming with why you took the decisions when the other party kept asking. You were very evasive, and that was probably your choice as a party. And I think from the very beginning, from your opening statement, you were like, okay, we will make some offers to them, but I'll not elaborate it right now. In your opening statement itself, you came in saying like, we like to work with the Mayweather, but I will make some offers, but I'll not elaborate it right now. In the very beginning, am I right? You said that, right?
Ma'am, I meant what we can delve upon it later.
Yeah. So when you're just starting the process, I would refrain from making the reference to also that you will come for more offers, because you're still trying to figure out what your doubts are. You're still trying to figure out why some things happen, and there are a huge amount of money involved. So you're trying to figure out. You want some clarifications. You want to understand why they did what they did, right? So if you are still trying to get your clarifications, you're not sure that you want to work with the other party. At that point, you can refrain. And when you get some answers, at that point you can go in and say, okay, we'll make some offers and we'll love to talk about it, but maybe that's the next step. But first we want to clarify whatever, 1, 2, and whatever it is. Alex, I think you did really wonderfully as an advocate. Very calm. You had a very calm tone. You were very firm about what you wanted. You were not willing to let go. You were always interjecting when you didn't think that they weren't answering, but you had a very calm tone, so that was really nice. But when I think the other party had laid out their agenda and you came in because you were the second party to talk about your opening statements, you said, I'm open to a certain extent for the agenda. I know it's being very picky, but don't say I'm willing to be open to a certain extent. You want to hear them, and you want them to hear you, no matter what the topics are. You may have 3 issues, they may have, whatever number, but you want to tell them, I'm here. We are here for an open discussion, and we are coming here with an open mind. So that is one thing I just wanted to mention. And that's about it. I think I've covered everybody's whatever small things that I kind of thought. I just think that the parties should have asked for a caucus much earlier. Nobody went and thought about a caucus until I think just 10 minutes were left in the process. But I have one more suggestion. I know this is an online mediation, but imagine if you were in a real mediation, real time. If somebody is talking, you would not raise your hand saying that I want to say something. You would just probably take a piece of paper if you thought that you might forget. You might just write it down, and when they're finished, you would want to make sure that you get your point across. So even in an online one, don't raise a hand, because someone might lose their train of thought, and it's not going to help you, because he's not going to stop midway in a sentence and let you speak, right? So that's for everybody. That was a general thing. That's all for my comments. But again, very well done for everybody. And honestly, as college students, I cannot believe how confident you all are and how well prepared you are. If I were to think when I started as a college student, if I had to do this, I would be very nervous. But you guys are very confident. Yes, you wanted to come in 2 and 4, Council.
Ma'am, first of all, thank you so much for this detailed feedback. I'm really saying on behalf of myself and every participant out here, we have actually taken notes. Thank you so much.
And I really hope you don't take that as a criticism, because I'm really hoping that these are just suggestions. If you were coming to me and just talking about it, I would have still gone like this. It's not because I'm judging this competition. So I sincerely hope you take this as very small suggestions.
Of course, ma'am. Ma'am, we wanted to just make a point when you said that we took a long time for opening statements. Yes, we also realized, but it was just that we were in the finals for the first time and we got overwhelmed and we got into the flow, which is
Totally understand. And as I think Joydeep also mentioned, don't worry, and Amit mentioned, don't worry about winning and losing. You've already won. Every one of you has won, because you all did phenomenally well. So there is no question of winning. And even if a team wins or loses, it's going to be a really tight. I don't know if you see the score sheets or not, but it's going to be a very tight race. So don't worry about that. And I totally understand that you got overwhelmed, and this is the finals, and it's online. You don't even get to see everybody. It would be a different feel if you were all sitting across the table. So, but again, as I said, these are all suggestions for you going forward in life, and if you really want to pursue this as a real-time career.
Also, ma'am, as we talked about the offer, it seems like a hastily season. Actually, we had noted it down, and which is why we wanted this agenda to come up first. Since this did not come, and this actually constituted the substance of what we wanted to say, this is why we just wanted to put it across.
True, very true. You all did not get to negotiate on the real crux of the matter. You did not reach there. I'm sure this was a real life mediation. You would have come to it very naturally and organically, because you would have tried to first clear your air, clear your doubts, get answers to whatever each party wanted, and then come to say, okay, now that we've done this, Now let's talk about going forward.
Thank
So
you.
I totally understand that. I'm done from my side.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that feedback.
You're most welcome.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, panel, for your valuable feedback. It was indeed a delight watching you all today. We hope this competition proves to be a learning process for everyone present here. Once again, we extend our heartiest gratitude to the esteemed panel for taking their valuable time and joining us today. I take this opportunity to humbly invite the panel for the valedictory ceremony that shall take place today at 7 p.m. We thank each and every one of you for being part of this session. We wish you good luck in your future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All the best, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, organizers. You may leave now. The session is over.